Welcome to the Pointy End. I'm Keith Sutherland. Today my guest is well-known Bendigo personality and RSL long-serving president, Mr Cliff Richards. Thank you for appearing on the Pointy End.
No, it's my pleasure, Keith.
Now, firstly, I've got to say congratulations to you, the RSL and everybody involved in an amazing event last week on Anzac Day, and it was just fantastic. Bendigo came alive, there was so much action, so many things happening. And I guess I can probably ask you, was there a highlight or the dawn service, or what was it that there was just so much of a lead up to that event?
Golly gosh. Look, I guess if there was a highlight for me, it was the community involvement. Just if we could use that as an expression, there was just so many people involved with Anzac Day and so willingly involved to make sure that this was a success. Now, whether it was from people knitting or crocheting poppies, or whether it was someone standing by the roadside handing out brochures, it just went on and on and on. And it was, to me, it was a pleasurable experience.
The whole build-up was just enormous, and I guess we've had a long time to build up to the anniversary, but everything just seemed to run like clockwork. I guess behind the scene may not be. On the surface it seemed to.
Well, it did this year because of the community involvement and over the years, for many, many years, the RSL and a team of volunteers have put together an Anzac Day, a Remembrance Day. And as the years have gone on, and typical of this Anzac Day, a huge event. We're starting to call this an event, and it does get beyond the volunteer capacity to manage. So we're fortunate enough this year we looked at an events coordinator, which was a professional person able to assist and advise us. We had great help from the City of Greater Bendigo, from the events team there. So there was lots of advice, lots of solid, good, constructive advice that made everything I say look good, worked well. No, and the bottom line was, and how do you say this, but the committee looked at each other at the end of the day and said, we nailed it. And it's the first time in my history with the RSL that I could turn around and say, I think we did.
Where do we go from here? Because there's been an enormous amount of money spent from the federal government and everybody else. Is that money, perhaps, should that be spent in other ways now, looking to the future? Or do we still celebrate the 100th anniversary plus of Anzac from here on in? It's a tough one.
As nice as Anzac Day was, there's certainly criticism come back in the nicest sort of way, and I think I've looked at that and viewed that and accepted that in good faith. And the dollars will always be an issue for us. Who pays for the service? Should we be paying for people to go to Gallipoli to represent Australia? Of course we should, yeah. And should we be commemorating in Canberra? Of course we should. So we should be doing all this, but I guess realistically, where do the finances come to do all this? And I guess if we evaluated this last Anzac Day, the in-kind support was huge. And we use that to our best ability. The fact that we could use money in better areas, supporting our younger veterans, and I was extremely mindful at the dawn service, and people said, well, you're going to talk about the first Anzacs, the Gallipoli part, and my presentation probably took up 3/4 of that morning. But I was very mindful to say it's important that we don't forget our younger veterans. And it is important that we don't forget our younger veterans. They're working hard, they've got young families, they've got a long future in front of them, and it's changing. Our whole world's changing. The way the RSL operates is changing. The way we present ourselves at our military services, all that's changing. So, and these younger people embrace that. So, yes, we need to look after them in lots and lots of different ways. What I'm mindful of not doing with our younger veterans is putting them in that cotton ball. They don't like that, and I've tried it before. I think we need to look after these younger people really well, and you tend to cotton ball them a little bit, and they don't like that because they're people that can get on with the job, and they don't mess around. So one lesson I've learned is to give them the task and ask them to do it, and willingly they'll go ahead and do that. But sure, and with army and military procedures at this moment, from an outsider's point of view, I think these younger people need more support from the government. Where do the funds come from that? That's up to our senior politicians and senior levels of management to start telling us that.
Going back to politics on this one, because Senator Rowlandson, Veterans Affairs Minister, done a mighty job leading up to this campaign, this Anzac Day, etc. Jackie Lambie, on the other hand, you're going to take all sides of Jackie Lambie, that she's a voice in Parliament that is speaking up for those veterans, but there doesn't seem to be a voice outside of that are supporting the current people in the services.
Look, with the likes of the Jackie Lambies, there'll always be a person with an outspoken person like Jackie that will pop up from time to time, and I suspect if we had a room full of people, half those people would agree with half of the goals that they're putting on the table, but probably not prepared to stand up and make that or support that voice. Yeah, look, we need people like that, and I guess that's what's we're on about when we have Anzac Day. The sacrifices that were made prior to us being here were to give us that freedom of speech, and that's to be respected, no matter who stands there and what comments they make. But Jackie's certainly supportive of the younger veterans. I think if we went into the background of what a younger veteran is involved with when in their military career and the future for them, I think there'd be a lot more people say we need to give these younger veterans a lot more support.
Okay. Having gone through the Anzac Day, we've had the local people going to Kokoda, the Hindsight Club raising funds for wheelchairs, and it's just been an almighty build-up for Bendigo and some fabulous people, including yourself, that's led the team in Bendigo. What happens to you from here on in? Because you've been there for a long time. Do you step back a little bit? Do you want to take a bit of a break? Or this is absolutely your passion and you do it so well? So what happens to Cliff Richards from the years ahead?
So why does someone put in so much time?
Yes.
I guess there is a passion there, without a doubt. And there's lots of things more than passion. It's for me to work with our older veterans, and sadly over the years that I've been with the RSL, I've seen a lot of our veterans pass on, and there's a lot more that still need that sort of support. So we're not only talking younger veterans, we're talking about our older veterans, their families, the widows. There's a huge amount of work to be done there in just supporting a person. As an older veteran is not seeking money or that sort of thing, but they're probably seeking someone to sit down next to them and have a bit of a chat. The younger veterans, huge changes coming up with the way we operate, how they operate. They're pretty slick with their systems. They can sit there with a laptop at a meeting and they can take the minutes there and there at the meeting and dismiss the meeting and say by the time you get home the minutes will be there waiting for you to have a read of. And the older veterans, we're still sitting there and we're still writing it down longhand. So there's lots of changes. And talking about change, I've been there long enough in the RSL to probably see a couple of changes occur. I've seen the older veterans, and I'm talking about World War II veterans, pass on the baton to the younger so-called Vietnam veterans. I've seen that happen, and now the World War II veterans have taken that step back and pleased that with their guidance they're seeing systems all go. Now, as a Vietnam veteran, I'm starting to knock on the door of 70 years old, and I'm now starting to be considered by our current Afghanistan and Iraq veterans as one of the older veterans. So the banner's starting to change again. And I think we have to be smart enough to hand that banner over at an appropriate time for the momentum to keep going, and for the younger people who have the skills. And it's important that we have the skills. It's nice to be a nice person and be part of the system, but you need to have the skills to keep systems going. So there has to be a time to recognise, and from my point of view, that I think I might have recognised the time in the near future that maybe we should be passing the baton to some younger veterans for some younger ideas. I'm also extremely mindful that to be in a position for a long time can, I was going to say be a little bit dangerous. I'm not sure if dangerous is the word, but yeah, you can be in a spot for too long as well, I think, and it's not that I'll give the RSL away at any time. I think the RSL will be part of my life, or veterans will be part of my life always, but Yeah, there might be a stepping back in the near future. Thanks,
So
thanks for putting pressure on me there.
No pressure at all. It's just that you've done an outstanding job. As you said, the baton's got to be changed over sometime. I wasn't asking for that, but watch this space. Now, just finally, I've noticed recently that, and we've talked a lot about finances this morning, that the RSL does need help, does need financial coming from somewhere. It's obviously not going to come from the federal government in the future. It's not going to come from local government because there's cutbacks everywhere. I know that you've got poker machines that are helping to fund all sorts of things, but the money doesn't spread that far afield. So finally, where does some of those funds come from to support you?
Yeah, so I agree with you. It's going to be difficult to get federal funding. It's going to be extremely difficult to get state and even local government, difficult to get funding for lots and lots of reasons. We spoke about the in-kind support. The in-kind support is tremendously important. Now, if federal, local and state governments can give volunteers the in-kind support, the backing that they need, the direction that they need, so it might be sitting down at a meeting saying, listen, Cliff, from the RSL's point of view, there's some funding available through grants over here. And people at the top level, federal, state, and know where funding can come from. So it's the in-kind support, the direction of where we can gather resources would mean a lot. And we got a fair bit of that this year. Yeah, interesting. It's difficult because the community has shown tremendous response, and I'm sure if we put our hand up and said, "Community, give us a hand," that would happen. But I don't think we should be doing that. I think it's our turn to show hand back to the community what we feel and give them something for the Anzac days of the future.
Well, Cliff, thank you for appearing on the Pointy End. It's been an amazing build-up to this year's event, the centenary of Anzac, the Gallipoli landing, and etc. But what you guys have done this year to highlight the veterans, to highlight what you're doing for the current people, the personnel and the services, I just think it's fabulous. So a job well done. Whoever knows whether you want to hand over the baton. No, you shouldn't be embarrassed because you should be very proud under yourself, your guidance and your team have done a terrific job, and you've done Bendigo proud, and I really appreciate you coming in and talking about the event post all these happenings. So thank you so much for appearing today.
Thanks, Keith.